Hey, how you guys doing? I'll be with you shortly. Thanks for joining. Whether you're at nighttime or morning here in Asia, appreciate you being here. If you could just kindly let me know how the audio is coming in for you, if it's too loud or too soft, and I'll be with you in about a minute and a half or so. Again, I'll see you guys soon. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is our weekly live stream. Glad y'all could be here. As mentioned, thanks for being here, whether it's in the evening or whether it's early morning here in Asia. Appreciate it. Quick roll call, Mutant Ref. How are you doing? Let's see. Huh, comments already. Nice. Things Nixon sadly said EPA and gold standard open up China. There's one more thing he said we're going to touch on. Hopefully, this isn't going to happen again, but we're going to touch on it. Good comment. Mitch V. How you doing from Houston? Again, if you are new, go ahead, type in new and where you're from, and we'll see if we can go ahead and acknowledge you. Joseph James, first time I've seen you here also. Welcome aboard. Olo from PA. Tricky Dick's curse, courtesy of Kissinger. And Kissinger had a lot to play at that time. For sure. Michael Sayer, my Twitter friend. How are you doing? Aloha. How are you doing? Jack P, Patrick Bateman, Chris Primer, Rhonda Giles. First time I've seen you here as well. Welcome aboard, Rhonda. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. Thailand, me, Sawadi from the land of smiles. I guess you're out in Thailand. Must be just chilling and relaxing out there. Good for you. Jay Delaney, yes, you're a sumo man. Okay. So tempting to play that clip, but I shall not do it to you. Michael De Jesus, how you doing? Bill Wood, Tampa, how you doing, Bill Wood? Buzzy75, show me the silver exactly. Silver took a beat down, didn't it? I mean, I think at first it was what's going on, and after a while it was like, okay, well, let's just buy some more. So it's a pretty interesting week last week. Peter Shoots, Rockin' Rod, Plattsburgh, New York. Welcome aboard. First time I've seen you here as well. Welcome aboard, James Richter. How you doing, Martin Wood? Let's see, Trev R. First time I've seen you here as well, or Trevor or Trev R. Either one. Perth Mint. Sorry about that. Perth, Western Australia. Perth Mint's on a lot of people's minds as well. So a few Aussies in the house. Teresa Smith, how you doing? Let's see. Okay, so Greg's got a lot of new guys. Good mix of new guys and old guys. Helmut Heap, greetings from KL, Kuala Lumpur, just up the road from us, about 6 hours or so. How you doing? Hope things are well in Malaysia. John Betts, Phillipsburg, Greg Sky again, Australia. Okay, a lot of new guys. Appreciate you all being here. And as always, if it is your first time here or if you haven't already done so, please do go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell and so you can be notified on new updates, especially when we have new interviews coming up, which we do. I think our next guy is going to be pretty interesting. But before that, you can also find us on social media. Silverbullion.com.sg is where you can find our website. Yes, we do sell gold and silver. We do vault gold and silver over in Singapore, but more than that, we do specialize in wealth protection, systemic wealth protection. And as I say each week, a lot of you folks already know what's going on, and we are going to have options for ourselves, and we do provide those options. So give us a call, sales at silverbullion.com.sg, or send an email. SilverBullionSG is where you can find us on Facebook. Silver Bullion PL for Private Limited is where you can find us on Twitter. Silver Bullion SG is our Instagram, our newly created Instagram, which I think I'm going to have to take a look at. Kind of interested to see how it's going. bit.ly/SBTV iTunes or /SBTV Spotify, or the audio versions. If you just want the audio, you can go ahead and get them from those two links. And of course, Crisis Tracker. If you have that Telegram app, whether desktop or mobile phone, it is a free app, of course. Go ahead and search Crisis Tracker, one word, and you'll find us there. And this is where we go ahead and we do post things as it pertains to gold, silver, finance, economics. And as I always say, we kind of sift through the weeds and pull out the pretty interesting stuff. And hopefully it can add a bit to your day. And so, again, you can always find us on all these places throughout social media. So, again, aloha to all and welcome aboard. Just take a quick look again. Lillian Winston, how you doing? Shad Edwards, appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Let's see. Florida, Florida Dex, did they clone Nixon? No, no, no. I think on that one, as they say, they broke the mold after Mr. Nixon there. Very interesting times, very interesting man. Let's see. Yes, as always, do join our Crisis Tracker Telegram group. I think it's growing nicely. It is a pretty good group there. Let's see what else is out there. Okay, put some gold and silver on the Friday dip. Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, that was a pretty horrendous dip, wasn't it? I mean, it's more like a waterfall if you look at the charts, more than a dip. But it's a buying opportunity nonetheless. Especially the way things are today. It's almost a must that we have to do some of these things and go ahead and load up on things like gold and silver, stores of wealth, stores of value. Manuel De Jesus, the Mick, aloha, how you doing? JD, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's a far ways away. Thank you. Thanks for joining us there. Okay, so having said all that, and hopefully I was able to greet all of you again. Thank you. Our upcoming guest, I think most of you may know him. Our upcoming guest is from goldsilverpros.com, Robert Keents. Robert Keents is the founder, editor, and publisher of goldsilverpros.com. And I didn't know this, but he has 3 technology degrees and emphasizes long-term cycle investing in the precious metals markets, as a lot of you folks know. And he has written columns for many media outlets, including FX Empire, as well as authoring his 2010 book, Drop Shadow, the truth about the economy. Truth is what we're all looking for, right? So again, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell to be notified on updates, and that way you'll know when Robert Keats is up, and hopefully we'll get a good interview. Have a few questions that I'd like to ask. Hopefully they're the same questions that you would like to ask and that you would like to know. So again, Robert Keats is going to be coming up. And with that, we'll move over to our ebook thank you giveaway. It's been doing pretty good. A lot of you guys have been watching the videos and been getting the answers, and appreciate that. And this week it's a little bit of a different book. I think I want to get the book myself. It's called American Default, written by Sebastian Edwards. The American economy is strong in large part because nobody believes that America would ever default on its debt. Yet in 1933, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he did just that. When in a bid to pull the country out of depression, he depreciated the US dollar in relation to gold, effectively annulling all debt contracts. And American Default is the story of this forgotten chapter in America's history. Now that looks like a good book. If you want to win it, download the Kindle app. It's free for your mobile phone or for your tablet, whatever it might be, and be one of the first 5 to answer correctly, or be in the top 5 to answer correctly in this live stream before the timer runs out. U.S. winners are going to be given a link to download the ebook. Non, non-U.S. winners can ask Amazon to exchange the ebook for other things like perhaps a gift card. And you're going to have to provide us an email during this live stream and no other messages, please, in that email because for some reason, if you add other comments, then uh, when we try to mute them, if you add other comments, then for some reason the mute is disengaged. So just the email only, and that way we will see it. So we'll mute your comments, send us your email, and it'll be all good from there. So again, let me take a quick look here. Comments, okay, seems like everything is all right here. So the question is going to come from the Lynn Alden interview. I hope you had a chance to watch it. Lynn, she really nailed quite a bit of things, and we appreciate the things that she had said, and we thank her for coming on. But let's get to that question. Okay, the question comes from that Lynn Alden interview. I think a lot of you folks should get it. It is the 2020s are shaping up to be like the 19 blank. Okay, so this is coming from the Lynn Alden interview. The 2020s are shaping up to be like the 19 blank. It's going to be a date here, so just go ahead and give it your best shot. Okay, so time is running. Just go ahead and give it your best shot, and who knows, maybe you might get it. Okay, so answers coming in. Silver Warrior 29, 1929. Chris Primer 2020. Michael Sayer 1940s. Manuel De Jesus 1940s. See what else we got there. Adrian Lopez 30. Justin Miller 70s. Hidden Numismatist 40s. James Richter 40s. Gary D 40s. And I think we're going to go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to end it at Gary D. Five of you, you're the first five. Five of you got it right. So again, it's going to be Hidden Numismatist, 1940s, which is the answer. Michael Sayer, my Twitter friend, 1940s. Again, Manuel De Jesus, the 40s. James Richter, the 40s. And Gary D, the 40s. So just to make sure we got it right, we're going to go ahead and well, timer ran out. 1940s. There you go. Just to make sure we got it right, we're going to revisit our guest, Lynn Alden, and we're going to see what she had to say. Here's the answer.
One of the analogies that I often make is that in many ways, the 2010s were a lot like the 1930s, and the 2020s are shaping up to be a lot like the 1940s. The 1940s, you had a much, much larger fiscal response because you're dealing with the external issue of the war and after this kind of decade-long period of stagnation. And so there wasn't really any loan losses. There was massive fiscal response. And so you had a really big surge in broad money supply, and that was a more inflationary decade than the 1930s. Similarly, when we look in the 2020s period, we've had this kind of decade-long period of relative economic stagnation, even though the stock market's done well. If you look at actual kind of labor participation, if you look at all sorts of different metrics like that, it's been kind of a weak decade. And then you have this external shock. You have massive fiscal response, the biggest money supply increase on a percent basis year over year since the 1940s. And so naturally, we're also getting a somewhat more inflationary impulse from that. And so, so far that analogy continues to be a pretty, kind of accurate way to think about, this era, which is otherwise pretty unusual.
Okay, so Lynn Alden, congratulations to the winners. Congratulations. Now, when you consider the 1940s and the war, money printing was rampant due to financing the war. And the same holds true today in a war of sorts. War of sorts to keep businesses afloat, the markets up, stimulus, things like that. And it's a war to keep the economy, the US dollar, alive. Now, some would even label this war a matter of national security. What do you think? Is right now the U.S. possibly in a state where their dollar is in a state of uh, some type of national emergency? You might say the economy is in some type of national emergency. You might say, and with the outcome being or the underlying factor being that it does involve the U.S. dollar and its ability to remain the world's reserve currency. So, what do you think? Be interesting to see your answers there. I'll move on to another thing that Lynn Alden had to say.
you get leverage building up in the system, and then some sort of external catalyst comes, or policy error or something like that, and you get a deleveraging event. But then policymakers jump in. They don't want that deleveraging event to take too long. People get angry because it's a recession, so they do all sorts of they cut interest rates. They do all sorts of things to try to stop the bleeding and stop that deleveraging. And so what happens is at the end of the cycle, you never fully deleverage compared to the beginning of the cycle, right? So you build up debt, then you decrease it a little bit as a percentage of GDP, but you didn't really get down to where you started. And so when you string multiple of those short-term business cycles together, what you end up getting is higher and higher debt levels and lower interest rates in each cycle, basically higher highs of debt and lower lows of interest rates. Policymakers essentially box themselves into a corner where interest rates are super low, debt super high, and other than inflating part of that debt away, they don't really have a ton of options for how to get out of that.
Okay, so Lynn Alden, she nailed it. And again, just to make sure we got this out there, Michael Sayer, Manuel De Jesus, Hidden Numismatist, James Richter, and Gary D. Again, congrats to y'all. Please email in chat if you want to receive the ebook. Okay, so go ahead and send your emails. Uh, Ron Shekelson, that's a great point there. Abolish the Federal Reserve and issue a U.S. dollar from the Treasury. I mean, I think a lot of us have been screaming that for years, if not forever. So, great comment there. Let me see now. Um, Higher and higher debt values, lower and lower interest rates. Policymakers box themselves into a corner. Other than inflating the debt away, they don't really have many options. Inflating the other than inflating away the debt. So, is this the option you think they're going to use? You think they're going to inflate it? And I don't normally do this, but I'm just gonna have to ban one or two of you guys. I mean, Lynn Alden, she does her best, and I don't appreciate these comments about what you think. You know, um, as far as her, you know, don't appreciate some of the comments. You guys know what we're talking about, so if I see them, I'm just gonna ban you guys. I don't normally do this, but it's not cool, right? So come on, let's be adult about this. Can we, please? So anyway, what options are they going to use besides inflating the debt away? Well, there's a few options they may have, and we'll talk about them. But before I get into it, let's play another clip from Lynn Alden.
There are relatively few assets that someone can have in their own possession, bearer assets that give them some degree of insurance, against some major tail risks. And so I do think that, physical gold, physical silver, even physical platinum, I do think they can be, useful hedges in someone's net worth. And then from there, they can, if they want to use ETFs to have liquidity in some of their portfolios, maybe their Roth IRA or something like that. There are ones, funds out there that are, say, physically backed, and then also people can get into the miners or the royalty companies if they want to have that more specific type of exposure.
Okay, so physical gold, physical silver, physical platinum can be useful hedges in someone's net worth, as Lynn says. I want to ask you guys: are you hedged for inflation creep? Uh, it's not so much creeping anymore. It's starting to trot before it takes on a full-on sprint. But are you folks hedged for it? And this sort of inflation engulfment that seems to be on the way. Um, Curious what you folks think. But anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed that interview with Lynn Alden. And I hope we can get her back on again soon. There's a lot of good info that comes out from Lynn. So really do appreciate that. So having said that, we'll go ahead and take a look at our website, silverbullion.com.sg, and see what's going on Monday morning here in Asia with silver and gold. Up a little, silver 2603, gold 1772. I remember speaking to a lot of traders, and they seem to say that 1750 for gold was the key target or key price, 1750. So it's right around at that range again. Let's hope silver can get some movement. It's come down about a couple bucks or so. It's quite a bit. We even seen nickel come down quite a bit as well, 17,316 per ton. Again, nickel it's a key metal for electric vehicle batteries, and a lot of people are pretty high on nickel. And I think it's the demand is there, and it's only going to get more. So nickel, something to something to look at. Again, this isn't financial advice, professional or otherwise. It's just my opinion. Moving over to our investor kit, it is free. You can just click on this and it's a free download, or you can look at it on our website. Star Storage account, do sign up for this. We'll walk you through it in a bit. Again, always it's good to have options. So do sign up for the Star Storage account. And there are no maintenance fees. So you can sign up for it, let it go. And when you feel like you would like to use it, it's there for you, ready to go. Gold silver ratio 68.1, where it takes about 68 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. Price wise, that's price wise. And don't forget about our P2P loan rates. P2P meaning peer to peer. When you store with us, you can actually use your gold and silver as collateral, and you can ask for a loan from your peers at your rates. And our peers are willing to lend money at their rates, and hopefully you two can come up in the middle and match somewhere. So again, it's a peer to peer type of a system, and you would have to again sign up for an account to go into this system if you would like to do so. And going down, featured products. Let me just take a look quickly at the LBMA bars again. Uh, 183. Okay, so we're down to 183. Might be time to reorder. Time to reorder LBMA bars. And we have one in the shop that you can go ahead and pick up. If you do, bring a trolley because this thing is heavy. Okay, so there you go. And again, in the vault, these 183 bars, you will own it. It is yours. Okay, it's yours. It's entirely off of our balance sheet. It's entirely yours. All we do is store it for you. Okay, and again, if you would like to store in the vault, you are going to have to sign up as a silver bullion user. And the easiest way to do it is to just sign up here, and you have six choices: personal, joint, trust, joint with a minor business, and retirement account. Retirement account, if you are thinking about precious metals IRAs, go ahead and shoot us an email, and we can go ahead and help you out with that, help you get started with it. And on the other end is just a personal account where it's just you. This is the easiest type of account to open up, personal and joints, where it's just some type of an ID and filling out the application. So these two are the easiest. Basic information, just really basic information here, easy to do. And for reference, go ahead and put in SBTV. We appreciate that. That helps us out. Newsletters are optional. My colleague Vincent, he does a great job with the newsletters, and we don't send them out that often. So, it's not like a spammy type of a thing. It's good info and good info at the right time. And again, I would tick this receiving customer notifications via encrypted secure notification. This is a good one where nothing is written in the body of the email. It's just something where you get an alert from us, and you can go ahead and sign into your account and retrieve your email. So that way, Yahoo, Google, Hotmail, none of those guys will ever see the body of the email. So go ahead and contact us, sales at silverbullion.com.sg, and we'll let you know what options we have and can provide. Moving over to Twitter, a few things I bookmarked. European Central Bank. A digital euro would be a powerful push for digitalization, offering a safe, costless means of payment and allowing intermediaries to provide services with digital euro inside, says Executive Board member Fabio Panetta to the Financial Times. So again, this song and dance is going to be played louder and louder more often on your radio station, where central banks are coming out with their own type of central bank digital currency, in this case, a digital euro. And you are going to be told they are safe, they are secure, all of these things, and they're going to help prevent money laundering and all of those types of things. So you are going to have to decide for yourself, what you can believe, who you can believe. So just to let you know, again, banks are coming out with their own digital types of currencies. Ron Paul, how can a government that's 28 trillion in debt spend trillions of dollars that it doesn't have? Well, one major way is the Federal Reserve creates money out of thin air and then loans it to the government by buying government bonds. I think most of us know the story already. The Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. Well, it is in some ways, but it's not federal like how you would think federal should be. It is a private bank, private corporation, and they print your money. You you believe that? A private corporation prints your money and the treasury makes your coins, but it's this private corporation that goes ahead and prints your dollar bills or touches a few keystrokes and puts these digits in your bank account. So it's a very odd way to let someone else make your money, but it's what our leaders chose to do back in 1913. President Woodrow Wilson. Okay, moving on. Wall Street silver message from Germany. So there you go. It's getting more out. More exposed. Wall Street Silver's movement got some stickers here and there over in Germany. Kind of nice to see. I hope to see a few in Singapore. It would be nice if we could see some out here. So Wall Street Silver, if you're out there, Michael Sayer, I know, I know you're pretty active with them. Go ahead and tell them, hey, do something in Singapore for us. We'd love to see it as well. Christopher Mullen, Tech Traders, Wall Street smart money is accumulating physical silver ahead of new Basel III regulations and price explosions to $44 an ounce. Chris is he keeps it real. That's one thing we appreciate about Chris. And of course, he does see silver moving up, but not in a straight line. I don't think any trader will tell you it's a straight line. It is going to have its ups and downs. Right now we are in one of those valleys. So don't. I would say have a bit of patience. We don't necessarily need to discredit guys simply because they said $50 an ounce, and then the next day it went down. Again, nothing moves in a straight line. But Chris, he's one of the guys out there that definitely knows what's up. And this video, surprisingly, Alex Jones knows what's up. Some of you guys may like him, some of you may not. But what he had to say, well, I think he said some stuff that's pretty interesting. Let me go ahead and start this from the beginning, and I'll play it for you.
GameStop scares the system for a much bigger reason. It is a relatively small stock, and it's already caused tens of billions of dollars of loss by these hedge funds that were planning to bankrupt it. If the people on Reddit and on Facebook and across the world ever realize what's happening with silver, and they are realizing it, it's game over for the globalists. They are trading hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Usually it's about 200 times the amount of paper silver that there actually is real silver in the world. And they use that to manipulate the price and hold it down anytime it starts going up, because then they can dump limited amounts of their paper silver, and it creates the illusion that silver actually doesn't have value, when really silver is hundreds of times more valued than what it really is. You understand? It's a
Oh, what's happened? All right, who did that? Michael, did you do that? You just said you
tangible
can't listen to the
commodity
guy.
that's used in construction, that's used in electronics, that's used in microchips. It's been valued for over 6,000 years. Again, silver is the number one target to bring down these criminals and to expose the fact that the whole system's a fraud, because they are leveraging 100, 200, 300, sometimes 400 or 500 times more silver paper in the market to suppress the value of silver, to basically short it, and then make billions and billions of dollars every month doing it. So if that gets exposed, that they're engaged in basically fractional reserve banking manipulation of silver, it's game over. This is the Achilles heel. It's the soft underbelly. It is the kill shot. It is the target politically to expose these criminals.
Okay, so Alex Jones, he's always had his hat in just about every game there was. So he's voicing his opinions on silver there. Interesting. Peter Schiff, the Fed's balance sheet exploded by 119 or 111.9 billion last week to a new record high of 8 over 8 trillion. If you can believe that, our balance sheet is at over 8 trillion. While everyone is wondering when a supposedly hawkish Fed will taper its asset purchases, a dovish Fed may have already quietly expanded the size of its asset purchase programs. Peter Schiff chiming in. Let's see, another reason why Bolivia is in the crosshairs of the U.S. and their Wild West approach to democracy, and that is because Bolivia will buy gold to strengthen international reserves. So another country that's kind of securing itself or hedging itself against the dollar, buying more gold. Okay, and then we have, let's see, Putin. He threw in a comment either regarding the U.S. media, either they don't understand the damage they're doing in their own country, in which case they are simply stupid, or they understand everything, in which case they are dangerous and corrupt. Now, I'm not sure what all of you folks feel about Putin, but the words he used there, I mean, I think, probably more than half of us would agree with his sentiment there. Uh, let's see, the other shiny nickel. The other shiny is nickel, key component in electric vehicle batteries. Now, even though it went down a bit, GM, General Motors, is going to up its spending on EVs and autonomous vehicles by 30%. Basically, what the story is about is General Motors, they are going to push more with electrical or electric vehicles, and that means things like nickel are going to be again even in more demand. So as the big automakers, not just in the U.S. but all throughout the world, where Volkswagen is even looking at building its own batteries, all throughout the world, automakers are making this push toward electric vehicles, and again, that means nickel. So again, nickel is something to look at. From CNBC states to end unemployment benefits for more than 400,000 people this weekend. And it was kind of interesting where the number for new unemployment claims was about, I believe, 412,000. So it's strange, coming in and going out, and it's about the same numbers balancing out. Pretty strange there. So, anyway, states to end unemployment benefits for more than 400,000 people. I think we'll take a quick look at this. It may involve someone you know or perhaps yourself. But 8 states: Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Dakota, West Virginia, and Wyoming are opting out of federal unemployment benefit programs on Saturday. And this came out June 16th, 2021. About 417,000 people will lose a $300 weekly supplement and other benefits, according to CNBC analysts of Labor Department data. And residents of Indiana sued. They actually sued the governor this week to keep the aid flowing. Hey, guys, this is where we are at. I've said it before, and you're going to see it come up where when the Fed put that punch bowl in front of Wall Street and they tried to take it away, we saw what happened with the markets. They could not take that punch bowl away. And when the Fed came around again and did it with Main Street, we've always had that question. If they could not pull that punch bowl away from Wall Street, how are they going to pull it away from Main Street? So, and you see, residents are going to sue. They're going to sue to keep that benefits. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go, but we shall see. So moving on. I guess maybe that'll be it with Twitter. So let me just take a look at what you folks have been saying here. Some of the comments here. Just take a quick look. Um, yeah, Peter Schutz exactly states cannot print money. So I'm not sure how they're going to tell their state to or sue their state. State can't print it. That money comes from, well, it does come from the government, but it's actually the Fed. So somebody in, let's say, Indiana, uh, if the Fed or if the government's going to have to create bonds to pay for Indiana, then people in other states are going to be paying for it, right? Because I don't think it's exactly, uh, the bond cannot be tied into just Indiana. The government is going to sell bonds, and the primary banks are going to buy it. Then the Fed is going to take it over and give Congress the money, and then I guess Congress will divvy it up however they want. But I think it's going to get messy. It's really really going to get messy. Let me take a look at here. Yeah, Mr. Nguyen, correct. Two types of nickel for batteries are in demand. Two types of nickel. You have class one and class two. Your class two nickel is the type of nickel that's used in pretty much your everyday things, your steel, your pig iron, things like that. Class 1 nickel is a specific type of nickel that's used in the car batteries. I believe there is a way to transfer or transform class 2 to class 1, but it's very expensive, so it's not feasible right now. And so they go for class 1 nickel. And if you're interested in class 1 nickel, we do sell class 1 nickel, as we kind of foresaw these things, coming into play. So we decided to get physical nickel. This isn't an ETF or anything like that. So if you're interested, again, sales at silverbullion.com.sg, and we can talk to you about nickel. So that's a great point, Mr. Nguyen. know your nickel. Okay, so let's see what else is out there. Um, okay, just taking a quick look. Okay, all right, I guess we're okay. So that was a look at Twitter, and what we'll do is we'll move on to the topic of the day, and that topic is going to be the recent FOMC meeting, and we'll expand on it. Don't worry, I'm not going to force a Jerome Powell love fest on you. So we'll expand on it. So Fed Chair Powell, he had their FOMC meeting, and he said a few things that stuck out. And so I just want to play a couple clips as to what Mr. Powell had to say. So let's get going with Jerome.
Good afternoon. At the Federal Reserve, we are strongly committed to achieving the monetary policy goals that Congress has given us: maximum employment and price stability. Today, the Federal Open Market Committee kept interest rates near zero and maintained our asset purchases. These measures, along with our strong guidance on interest rates and on our balance sheet, will ensure that monetary policy will continue to deliver powerful support to the economy until the recovery is complete.
Okay, Uncle Jerome, you got it. Manuel de Jesus, Uncle Jerome. So the Fed leaves rates unchanged and will continue its asset purchases of bonds and mortgage-backed securities. And interesting, they just tell you the minimum. We will continue to buy this amount, that amount, but that's just the floor. They're not telling you the max that they're going to buy. And both do impact the U.S. dollar. In the case of mortgage-backed securities, though, you know what? It's starting to show the consequences where home prices they're going to continue. They are going to continue to rise. And banks have a safety net with the Fed intervening, and we are paying more and more for the same amount of home. The home's not getting any bigger, but the price is going up, and the banks have a safety net from the Fed, who is deeply involved in mortgage-backed securities. The other question is Powell says monetary policy, will continue to give powerful, powerful support until the recovery until the recovery is complete. I always have a question when he says recovery is complete. What is complete? In fact, maybe I should ask you folks, what is complete? When do you think the recovery will be complete? Let me know, because I don't know. So, having said that, let me go and take a look at the Fed balance sheet, see where we are today. And this is pretty amazing. I mean, you look back here at 2008, the great financial or the Great Recession. You look at this, we were fine. I mean, apparently we were fine up until here. Okay, and then it kind of took off a little bit over 2 trillion. And here we are today over 8 trillion. So we took off almost 4 times since 2008 until today. And the interesting thing when I look at this anyway is you always hear economists say the word recovery. Okay, well, to me, a recovery would be back somewhere around this level where we were. That's a recovery where we were. Here is just Fed intervention all the way through from 2008 all the way through till today. I mean, is this a recovery? I mean, you let me know because I'm not seeing it as a recovery, and I'm not really paying attention to anyone who calls it a recovery because for me, a recovery is back here. Maybe a little bit steeper incline, but definitely not this. This isn't a recovery. This is an emergency. This is weekend at Bernie stuff where the economy is pretty much dead and the Fed is just keeping it alive. So be curious to know what you all think with that. Let me take a look at a few comments here, but we need to ask, looking at the chart, we just never saw that recovery from 2008 and it was never complete. So why should we expect a recovery this time around to be complete, as Mr. Powell says? And this is why I say whenever an economist or talking head says recovery, I say run. Whenever they say recovery, I say run. The economy has recovered. If you look at the Fed balance sheet, the economy has never recovered and continually has been inflated by the Fed. So let me just take a look at a few of your comments here. Um, Spare a dime, exactly. Be your own bank. Be your own bank. Get yourself some gold, silver. People tell me real estate is good as well. You need these stores of values. Be your own bank. Uh, exactly. Hockey sticks, not normal. They are just not normal. They scream trouble. So again, you know, you can look at any metric you want, but for me, I'll just look at not just look at, but I primarily look at that balance sheet. And if anyone says normal, show them the balance sheet. If you hear anybody tell you economy is normal, show them the balance sheet. It's not normal. Okay, so let's see what else is out there. Sharp eye for coins. Exactly. Recovery equals charade. Yes, getting getting yoked for sure. Tony, start over. Sure, we can do that. No, we can't do that. Start over. And well, welcome aboard. Glad you made it here. Um, just one more from my colleague Vincent. All that hoo-ha about raising rates in 2023. Look at how much reduction the last taper did compared to the increase in debt. No way but print, print, print. Let me show you real quick. Let me get back to that. Let me see if I can get back to that balance sheet. Sorry about that. This is what happened last time they tried. Last time they tried to taper off, just didn't work, and then we shot up. I mean, and you can't say this is well. I mean, I guess in some ways you could say it's related to COVID. I mean, yes, this is when a lot of things happened here, but it was already starting before that. They tried to taper off, they couldn't, and it was already on its way back up. I mean, if you had to say anything, this part here kind of looks like this part here where it was about to go back up. So they tried to taper. They tried and they just couldn't do it. So here's another clip from the Fed.
Widespread vaccinations, along with unprecedented fiscal policy actions, are also providing strong support to the recovery. Indicators of economic activity and employment have continued to strengthen, and real GDP this year appears to be on track to post its fastest rate of increase in decades.
No, 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 no. We're not going to let you. Sorry, Uncle Jerome. Can't let you get away with this one either. He talks about vaccines and fiscal policy providing strong support to the recovery. I want to point this out about vaccines. I'm not saying, take it, don't take it, or anything like that. I'm just saying, I just want to show you something that I found about vaccines. If he's saying that vaccines are a point for recovery, well, the WHO says Delta COVID variant has now spread to 80 countries, and it keeps mutating. This came out June 16th, 2021. The Delta variant has spread to more than 80 countries worldwide. The Delta now makes up 10% of new cases in the US, up 6% from last week. And the WHO added a new variant called, I'm just going to call it Lambamba because they seem to be dancing all over the place with this, but they really called it the Lambda to its list of variants of interest. So I'll stop it there. I mean, I think you folks kind of get the gist of this story, but if Paul, it's a legitimate question here, guys. If Paul talks about how vaccinations are helping the economy, okay, if we're going to go down that road, then how might these mutations and variants affect the economy? Would it then slow it down? Perhaps go back in reverse, throw it in a tailspin. I mean, if we're going down this path, I mean, it's a legitimate question to ask, right? So I think any of us right now would rightfully ask about the possibility of vaccines. Yes, I call it vaccines. You heard me right. Vaccines. Like Mac computers, if you don't update and get a new vaccine, your old system just might not operate correctly anymore. And it's a legitimate question if we're talking about variants and moving over into 80 different countries. And if you're talking about US has 10% new cases are of these variants, then it's a legit question to ask. I mean, if you're throwing vaccines into the mix of the economy recovering, well, how about the variants, right? So if we're going to go down this path, then let's you got to stick to it. I mean, you can't jump off and create something else just because it might fit some sort of a narrative. Because all of our health are at stake, right? Our health, our lives are at stake. So let's just have a little bit more transparency, is what I'm saying here. Okay, so moving on. And fiscal policy providing strong support is the other thing that he said. So let's take a look at this fiscal policy providing strong support. Quick look at it. Unemployed households can earn $25 an hour on welfare in 21 states. The report sheds light on the causes of our current economic purgatory. Okay, so, and again, this is why some states are getting sued now. The U.S. economy is in a perplexing state of labor market purgatory. We have 9.3 million unfilled job openings, all while millions of Americans remain on unemployment benefits and millions more are opting out of the labor force. So, in short, a labor shortage is throttling the economic recovery. But why? This is part of the reason. So, a new study published by the Fiscally Conservative Committee of or to Unleash Prosperity offers a comprehensive examination of one of the labor shortage's main causes: lucrative unemployment benefits. Interesting word, lucrative unemployment benefits. In March of 2020, the federal government passed a temporary $600 per week supplement on top of the existing state level unemployment payouts. It was reduced to $300 a week supplement in President Biden's uh, bug stimulus legislation, but extended through September of 2021. So finding people to go back to work will not happen unless you pull that punch bowl away. And I've long said again, and just mentioned it, if you couldn't pull that punch bowl away from Wall Street, how do you expect to pull that punch bowl away from Main Street? All right. Now here's something else to realize. This is interesting. It's a short clip. Okay, so that was pretty interesting there. I just want to get to one comment. Casey Willis, miss, massive misallocations. All right, say that three times real quick. Of capital, and we are truly sitting at the edge of the greatest crash in modern history. And as my colleague Vincent responded, nailed it. That's exactly right. And so again, I just want to where are we at? That clip was pretty interesting because it not political. It's not political or anything. It's just to say that people are moving. People are moving, and if they can change the demographics of an election, and you know we're having a people transfer. In short, you're going to see certain zip codes increase in wealth, and you're going to see certain zip codes decrease in wealth. And we've talked about this way back, where you're going to see zip codes pretty much telling you where people who are doing well are living and people who are not doing well are living. We talked about this before, right? So mark my words, as I've showed you this in a prior live stream, you're going to see this happen with zip codes for sure. And as mentioned, you could very well see the political landscape change before the 2022 midterm, much less a 2024 presidential election. I'm not going to be political. I'm going to take sides, or red, blue, whatever it might be, just to say that things are changing, and it's changing. I don't know whether it's a change that you like or whether it's a change that you don't like, but it is changing, and you're going to have options again to to go with these changes, or to do what you need to do with these changes that are coming up. So, again, not to be political or anything, but this is really what's happening. Okay, and when Powell said GDP this year has grown at its fastest rate in decades, I mean, come on, Uncle Jerome. Compared to coming off of last year, of course, it's grown the fastest in decades. And I'm just going to say this in the words of Greg Manarino, duh. Okay, I mean that's exactly what he would be saying. Kind of love it when the guy does that. But I mean, let's be real. Compared to last year, of course, it's going to be doing better. Perhaps the biggest in decades or whatever it is. So, I mean, again, it's got to a point in our lifetime where you can't just take what the news says anymore. There is always something behind what they're saying. Anyway, nonetheless, here's a CNBC wrap up of what Powell had to say. It's just a couple minutes.
Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates unchanged and will maintain asset purchases at $120 billion a month. Now, in its policy statement, the central bank said that economic activity and employment have strengthened. It acknowledged that inflation is rising, but still said that the increase largely reflects transitory factors. Now, that is the same language that the Fed used last time. But the Fed did increase its forecast for inflation this year to 3.4% from 2.4%. The outlook for GDP also improved to 7% growth this year. That's up from 6.5%. The forecast for unemployment unchanged at 4.5%. And now 7 Fed officials see a rate increase happening sometime next year. That's up from 4 back in the spring. The central bank noted that progress on vaccinations will reduce the impact of the pandemic on the economy, but that risks to the outlook remain. The Fed still sees inflation expectations as well anchored, and it reiterated that it's aiming for inflation above 2% for some time, so that the average over time is 2%. No change in the criteria and language for reducing asset purchases. The Fed still needs to see substantial further progress before tapering. We will see if Fed Chair Jay Powell, during his press conference, provides any more color on when the Fed will start that discussion. He has promised to clearly signal when they intend to begin, and there was an expectation that he would address it more explicitly today. But for now, the Fed holding steady both on rate hikes and on asset purchases, and the vote for the action today was unanimous.
Okay, so one of the few things he said is that inflation and Mr. Cerveni, excuse me, one other guy, sorry, who said that now? Let me look for it. Uh, yeah, self-evident. Constant misuse of the word inflation drives me crazy. Well, hopefully, it won't drive you crazy here. But okay, some of the few things he said is that inflation is running above their target 2%, and now we all know the Fed plans to let it run a bit hot. They plan to average that 2%. They no longer plan to target that 2%. And with that in mind, there are some things that governments do, or they may do, if inflation should really move up. So here's 3 things that they do. And then after these 3 things, I'm going to show you the thing that I hope they do not do. So here's 3 things that a government may do.
Inflation occurs when an economy grows due to increased spending. Prices rise and money loses value because it won't buy as much as before. Inflation can be controlled without causing a recession using contractionary monetary policies. There are mainly 3. The first is to increase interest rates. Banks borrow money from the government at the Federal Reserve rate. To make money, those banks must lend money at higher rates. If the Federal Reserve increases its interest rate, banks have to increase their rates too. Fewer people want to borrow money when it costs more. Spending drops, prices fall, and inflation slows. Another policy is to increase reserve requirements. Banks must maintain a certain amount of cash in reserve to cover withdrawals. The more money banks must hold, the less they can lend. Consumers borrow less, and spending slows. Finally, the government can call in debts that are owed or increase the interest that bonds pay, so more investors will buy them. Both tactics take cash from the pockets of banks, investors, and companies, putting the cash in the government's pocket for easier control.
Okay, so 3 things governments typically do in inflationary times, as mentioned in this video: increase interest rates. Can we do that? Increase reserve requirements. Can we do that? And reduce the money supply. Can we do that? So at this past FOMC meeting, Fed said no rate changes. So that answers the first question. No rate changes this time around, but they are thinking about it near term, perhaps next year or the following year. And when it comes to increasing the Fed reserve requirements, remember when the Fed took away the reserve requirements, and in case you didn't know, this is what the Fed did. They actually eliminated the reserve requirements. Okay, so what happened back in 2020? This was posted. Federal Reserve announced they were reducing the reserve requirement ratio to zero, to 0% across all depositors as of March 26, 2020. And this comes as the bug continues to impact much of the way financial institutions both operate and serve their customers. So, what is this reserve requirement? Well, it was a regulation that has been around for years where it required depository institutions to keep enough cash reserves available to meet the immediate withdrawal request for their net transaction accounts. The term used to describe these cash reserves is the reserve requirement. Historically, reserve requirements have been calculated by applying a predetermined tiered percentage called the reserve requirement ratio to the institution's net transaction account balance. I know it sounds complicated, maybe, but one way the calculated total can be satisfied is by having enough vault cash. This is what it was about, having enough cash on hand. Now, if the cash on hand or the vault cash balance is insufficient, the institution is required to hold the additional funds in an interest-bearing account at a reserve bank. Historically, the reserve requirement ratios ranged from 0 to 10% based on the dollar amount of net transaction accounts held on deposit at the institution. So what they did was they basically basically told the banks, you don't have to hold really much of anything in reserve anymore. But I would expect the Fed to bring back a reserve requirement. This I do, but by doing so, if they do, credit may get tighter, loans may be a little bit harder to get, and that may make it harder for businesses because businesses do operate on credit. So until the economy can get back on its feet, I don't want to say recover, maybe get to its knees perhaps, um, businesses are still walking a very fine line. And if they take out loans and customers aren't there, these loans may be difficult to service. The other one, the last option, reducing the money supply. Well, what will happen with the bond market? The Fed, I believe, is one, if not the biggest buyer of bonds. I mean, if basically this is tapering, if they start to taper down, if they should slow, stock market probably is going to tank a bit, and for bonds, you're going to see that bond is going to spike. It's going to start to spike a bit. If people are to buy those bonds, or if the Fed starts to pull back on buying the bonds and it goes out into the open market for people, I mean, the open market for bond purchases, guys are going to require a higher yield. They're going to require a higher interest rate. Bonds are definitely going to spike. So, what's the Fed going to do? As Lynn Alden said, they've boxed themselves into a corner. But perhaps the worst thing a government might do, and without question, this is going to come up for debate, are price controls and price ceilings. They may get to this. Now, some of us may remember when Nixon implemented these price controls. If not, here's a refresher.
I am today ordering a freeze on all prices, wages throughout the United States.
In August of 1971, in an attempt to control inflation, President Richard Nixon simply declared that price increases were now illegal. Soon after Nixon's declaration, the situation in many markets started to look like this. The market equilibrium price was above the current price, but it was illegal to raise prices. Prices were hitting the ceiling, the maximum price allowed by law. With a price ceiling, buyers are unable to signal their increased demand by bidding prices up, and suppliers in turn have no incentive to increase the quantity supplied because they can't raise the price. The result is a shortage. The quantity demanded exceeds the quantity supplied. For example, In the 1970s, price ceilings on gasoline meant that it was common to have no gas at the gas station. However, the story doesn't end there. More people want to buy gasoline than there was gasoline available. So who gets the gasoline? Rather than compete for gasoline by bidding up the price, buyers now competed by waiting in longer and longer lines, in effect, bidding up their time. In the 70s, people would wait for hours at the gas station to fill up. So while the monetary price of gasoline doesn't rise, the price paid in people's time did increase. Moreover, when buyers pay for gasoline with money, the seller gets the money. When buyers pay for gasoline in time, the seller doesn't get the time just gets wasted. Do you recall from the previous videos how the price system coordinates the actions of thousands of people all over the world in order to deliver flowers? Well, with price controls in place, the economy became discoordinated. Shortages of steel meant that construction workers had to be sent home and new building construction delayed. Factories and offices had to close when shortages meant they couldn't operate, and when they closed, the firms relying on them had to close too. In perhaps the most ironic case, a shortage of steel drilling equipment made it difficult to drill for oil even as the United States was undergoing the worst energy crisis in its history. And other odd things started to happen. In a market economy, when it gets cold on the East Coast and the demand for heating oil increases, entrepreneurs ship oil from where it has low value, here in sunny California, and ship it to where it has high value in cold New Hampshire. Buy low, sell high. With price controls in place, high-value consumers of heating oil couldn't bid up the price, and so there was no incentive for entrepreneurs to bring oil to where it was in greatest demand. As a result, in the harsh winter of 1972 to 1973, people were freezing on the East Coast even as people elsewhere in the United States had enough oil to heat their swimming pools. And then the chickens started to drown. A price ceiling had been imposed on the price of chickens, but not on the price of feed. Farmers realized that at the controlled price, they would actually lose money if they fed their chicks to fatten them up and bring them to market. So the farmers drowned millions of baby chicks.
Thanks, price controls.
The list of strange unintended consequences like these go on and on. In the next few videos, we'll dive deeper into price ceilings.
Okay, so price controls as defined by Investopedia. What are price controls? Well, the term price controls refer to the legal minimum or maximum prices set for specified goods. Price controls are normally mandated by the government in the free market, and they're usually implemented as a means to direct, manipulate economic intervention and to manage the affordability of certain goods and services, including rent, gasoline, and food. This is pretty amazing because one is where you live. Gasoline, that's your energy, and food. And if you look at CPIs, of course, these are the things that they do not count as far as inflation. They don't count food and gasoline. So pretty interesting there. Although it may make certain goods and services more affordable, price controls can often lead to disruptions in the market, losses for producers, and a noticeably change in quality. Okay, so let's just take a look at the key takeaways real quick. They are government mandated for specific goods and services. They're put in place to manage, to make things affordable again for people. Minimums are called price floors, while maximums are called price ceilings. And these controls are effective on an extremely short term meaning transitory basis. And over long term, price controls can lead to problems such as shortages, rationing, inferior product quality, and black markets. So those are definitions of price controls per Investopedia. Now, with food prices going up, could there be price controls that may be implemented? Now, is the federal and the government making sure to fill your households with money so that they don't have to implement price controls? Hey, who knows? That's up for debate. But what I can tell you, though, is that price controls are real. And in fact, one country in Asia is going through price controls right now. And I want to show you how price controls actually look. Here we go.
Let's get the views now of the supermarket industry on this price ceiling. Joining us now is Stephen Kua, President of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association. Thank you, sir, for joining us on The Final Word. Your association has dozens of supermarket chains under your group. Are they complying with the price limits for dressed chicken and meats?
We did not meet on this, okay? I mean, it's just common sense and the good business sense that you won't carry any items or merchandise which won't give you a decent return. So if we cannot carry pork or poultry products given our margins, no, tandaan nyo, nasa ref yan, no? So kailangan may kuryente pa. We won't be carrying those items. Anyway, a supermarket has so many, variety and assortment of food products that you can choose from.
Okay, so recap here. If a government puts a cap, a ceiling on prices due to something like inflation, let's say, then retail sellers of that product may choose not to carry it if no money can be made. Okay, this is important, right? Now, in this case, the government in the Philippines decided to enact a price control to help people afford things like chicken and pork. And it's debatable, is this the right thing to do? Is it really the right thing to do? Let me go ahead and play another clip while you folks think about that.
So is there already a shortage of pork and meats now in supermarkets under your association, Mr. Kua?
Well, so far, suppliers have not been, delivering for the moment, no. I did not monitor all the members, no, and didn't find out if all nationwide, if the, well, this is Metro Manila nga pala, no? Price caps of Metro Manila lang.
Yes.
So I didn't monitor all the stores if, they were delivered. But I guess for those suppliers who cannot comply with the price ceilings, they probably, stop themselves from delivering. And for those who were able to deliver, supermarkets did not accept those goods.
So are we going to be seeing supplies coming from the south, maybe from the Visayas and Mindanao, flooding into Metro Manila to be able to make up for a potential shortage in chicken and meats?
Yes, we understand the government's intention in putting a price cap, no, because nahirapan ng taong mamili, no, given the high prices for pork and poultry, but products. But a lot of people, those who are delivering to us these goods, okay, on a day-to-day basis, no, are having a hard time because remember that some of these animals, no, these livestock, come all the way from Mindanao, no, Jensan, no, Coronadal, and on their way to Manila, they're stopped, because of ASF, no, governors, mayors won't have them pass through, and COVID-19, no, the people delivering, they have to be swab tested and everything. So the delay, shrinkage of the animals, no, and all these inefficiencies, no, are causing these deliveries a lot of money. So a lot of these middlemen decided to sell the goods products before they reach Metro Manila. Kaya nga may shortage sa Metro Manila. Now, if DA is doing its share and bringing in from Iloilo and all the other places, I heard it was in the airport already today. So hopefully, if they are able to do it efficiently tomorrow and distribute the different retail outlets they decide to distribute it to, then ma-minimize yung shortage now sa market.
Okay, so price controls can adversely affect what they were actually meant to do. In this case, they were meant to keep food affordable. And as a result, the government made food become scarce. And suppliers, they would even stop delivering items that have no profit. And retailers would even stop accepting these same goods that they simply cannot make a profit on. A retailer would simply or would still have to pay things like refrigeration. And if any of you ever worked in a supermarket, real estate space, shelf space, freezer space, refrigeration space, and everything, these all factor in greatly as to what that supermarket is going to carry and what it will not. So, not to mention the complexities of COVID, where transport and checkpoints further delay shipments that may not be meeting margins. And this is interesting because when we did talk to people like Keith Newmeyer, he did mention how the pandemic situation actually would slow things down because as people moved, they had to get tested here, they had to get tested there, and so that would slow down the production of their mining operations and even add additional costs. I'm pretty sure you could safely assume. So again, it has adverse effects. So you know, It's real. This is really happening, and I know in the U.S. you folks are seeing food prices rise as well. So just keep an eye on it if they start talking about price controls. So here's another clip.
But it is very difficult for many of these farmers, especially if this price cap will last for 60 days or for 2 months. It will really have an impact on them, which in turn they will not raise chicken and hogs anymore, and they will just turn their attention to importing overseas.
It just means that for every day that they have to feed these animals now, they're losing money. So, they either sell them while they're underweight, no, not yet nasa timbang, or, well, I guess they have to sell them underweight if that's the point, no? Rather than lose more money and probably use that money to import themselves, no? Because they're gonna make more money that way than to feed these animals until the right size and to sell them off, no? Yun ang problema ng mga, it does not augur well for the farmers, no? And a lot of people are, depending on this livelihood, no, to feed their families, no? That's the sad part.
Okay, so as mentioned, there farmers stand to lose money, and that was also shown in that clip where the farmers they basically have to destroy their chicks. So farmers stand to lose money and face competition where retailers they may choose to import from overseas, and the farmer gets a double whammy, and that may have long-lasting implications in the economy and overall market supply and demand. I mean, once you start doing that, if you have less and less farmers, uh, really, what are you going to do? That has surely has long lasting effects. I would say that may even be a national security issue if your country can't even produce food. Um, imagine all of the types of negotiations and deals you're now going to have to make with other countries in order to be able to get that food. So that's something pretty interesting there. Anyway, this is the last clip. One more clip here about price controls.
Consumers are also feeling the pinch of higher prices of chicken and meats. That's why the government undertook this price ceiling to be able to cap inflation and rising prices as well.
Yes, it's a short-term solution, but for each solution, there are new problems that are created, no? So it depends on the amount of meats imported and for how long they'll be doing this, no? It's going to hurt the local farmers or not, no? And probably the local farmers could sell to the institutional markets, no? We're talking about hotels, restaurants, caterers, no? Who are actually hard up also, no? And imported meat probably catered more to the households. Maybe that's what they can do.
So basically, in your view, Mr. Kuwa, what should be the medium to long-term solution to be able to resolve this issue of rising prices of chicken and meats?
Yes, you're saying if that is the medium to long, short to medium term solution.
What is the medium to long-term solution to be able to keep prices
long-term
lower?
solution, they really have to support the farmers and the sweet spot, the balance between importing and being able to help these farmers sell their goods at the prices that are favorable to them. It's a very long-term solution. It's a roadmap, no, ng different industries, no, and I think DA and DT has to work together on this, no, and right now we're already, may bahana, no, so the first thing is first aid, no, you gotta do what's needed immediately, no. That's why short-term solutions, muna quick fix solutions, no. Pero in the long run, they really have to sit down and plan well, because a lot of these, from how I understand this, now a lot of these hogs are backyard raisers, hindi big time, hindi big time. Even Monterrey, decided to just leave their pigs to the other. So that's showing us a picture of fragmented development of these particular livestock, in the industry, yun ang problema.
Thank you so much.
They should have a plan, a roadmap. Yeah.
A roadmap and a long-term plan to be able to help our farmers. Thank you so much for your insights, Steve.
Okay, so as he said here, price controls are short-term solutions, transitory, right? That can have long-lasting, even dire results. Now, in this case, the government may even have to step in and assist, perhaps give grants or even bailouts to food producers because, as mentioned, a nation's food, it is definitely a national security item because, as mentioned, if you don't have your own food, then you are going to really always have to create treaties or deals with other countries. So it is hugely, hugely important there. So I know we talk about inflation. Everyone talks about inflation. Some people say inflation is wrongfully defined. But the thing governments do, the relief they give can and often does have seen or unforeseen consequences. And that's really what this is about, the unforeseen consequences. As I showed you, the Fed balance sheet since 2008, they like to use the word recovery. I don't see a recovery in that. Um, they like to use the word transitory. I don't think it's going to be transitory. It's just my opinion here. But when you tried to get inflation since 2008, you couldn't get it. What makes you think once you get it that you can stop it? So I don't necessarily. I'm not on that transitory train. Anyway, that is our topic of the day, and we'll move on to commentary in a bit. First, I want to go ahead and see what's out there. What are you folks talking about? Really, was this true, Russ? Did he say that? Control the food and you control the population. Did he really say that? Not that I don't believe him. Just it's the first time I've heard it, so that'd be pretty interesting if they really if he really had said that. So it's interesting comment there. Let me see what else. I did see one earlier. I had to mark it here. Yeah, Frank Cerveni. No shortage of pork in Congress. Absolutely, no shortage of pork there. Let's see what else is out there. Just taking a quick look at comments here. Let's see. Robin Seville. Nixon administration was quite possibly the most damaging presidential administration, along with the Federal Reserve, to ever strike the U.S. Nixon, the time he came in, I mean, even Kennedy, he was in there at a rough time. Even, let's just go back to Lyndon, LBJ. Let's go back to LBJ. Let's go back to even Eisenhower. These guys, they all made points. They all made points to say that, they mentioned words like MIC, military industrial complex, and whatnot. And that was coming from a general now, a general who was president. As he stepped down, it's one of the things, one of the last things he wanted to say before he left office. And that's coming from a general. Um, Very, very credible. So, anyway, let's see what else is out there. Uh, yeah, that pork joke, that was a good one. That was a good one. Um, okay, let's see what else is out there. Okay. Yeah, Lynn Alden, if you have, time, go back and take a look at it. Information there is good. It's good. All right, so head over to commentary. By now everyone should, I hope we clearly see things that they are going to get better, but before they get better, there's going to be a little bit of friction going on there, and you know, when it does even get better, I'm curious, it's going to get better for who? Who are things going to get better for? You can make it get better for yourself. That's for sure. But really, I mean, overall, with the powers, the people in the powers or the powers that be, who's it supposed to be really getting better for? Now, what am I doing? I realize this. It's not. This isn't a conspiracy I conjured up, and I'm walking a fine line here. This isn't a conspiracy that I conjured up. I realize this is a conspiracy that central banks and governments have conjured up. Conspiracy, right? Definition of it, where you have, two or more people who are kind of thinking up something. It's not me. I'm not thinking up any of this. It's the people in charge who are thinking of these things. So, I mean, that's the context of what I mean when I say this. And me, you, we need to understand that where we're headed right now, we have to navigate through it. We really have to try and navigate through things. And for me, I realize I need a store of value, and gold and silver. I know, people will say other things like food and things like that. Uh, but a store of value for money like gold and silver, I see it as one of the important things to get us through that transition from here to there, whatever is coming down the road. Um, this is simply to be helpful. we got to be helpful with each other. We got to be kind to each other. And we also got to pray that our goodness rubs off on each other. Uh, I tell you, things that come out on the news is just absolutely amazing. It seems that the media wants to keep us in a perpetual state of anger. And we we got to be better than that. We can't do that. We got to be that blessing, not that burden. But to sum it up, I'm going to let Christopher Mullen give his thoughts in a recent Metal Money interview. Preservation of Wealth versus You Only Live Once was the name of an article you posted at the technicaltraders.com website. Can you explain your thought process and why you wrote this article?
You only live once. Well, I mean, when you look at the financial markets, it's all about trying to generate income, trying to generate a living from the markets is how I like to do it. But you've got to invest in insurance and assets that are going to protect you in case something happens. And a lot of people always get overextended on positions. They take on high risk. A lot of people don't realize how much risk is actually in the stock market or things that they invest in. I mean, there's a lot more risk than most people think. And people tend to invest way too much money. And then when something does happen, they're shocked and they're crippled financially. And so the key is you really got to focus. And to me, investing in precious metals is just like buying insurance on your home or your vehicle, except for in most cases, this insurance plan doesn't just cost you money every year. It's actually going to hold up in value and hopefully actually outperform. So it's kind of almost like a free insurance policy for you to park some money. And if the world does kind of collapse, the financial system, things like that happen, this insurance policy should jack up in price and go through the roof and kind of act as your insurance plan to counter losses in your currency dropping in value, maybe properties, who knows what'll happen, right? So I think just the fact that you just need to focus on protecting yourself long-term. There's no, people shouldn't be, hopefully going bankrupt later in life just because they were over-positioned in one big asset class only. I mean, it's really just do what you love, kind of, and the money will follow. If you're passionate about being protective and growing your capital, you're going to naturally find ways. And it's not about making quick money in a lot of trades. It's about investing wisely, putting money that may not grow the fastest, but it's there, protected, and it'll grow when it really needs to grow if something bad was to happen. That's just kind of the point I try to get across.
Okay, and so that'll wrap up the commentary section. Chris Mullen saying it very, very, very well. It is an insurance in a lot of ways. I've also said this before. When you look at things like gold and silver, it's an investment slash insurance. The investment side, kind of rough sometimes. We see the price go up and down and up and down, but the insurance side, it's always there. A lot of us expect things to may really go bad with perhaps the dollar, with the financial system, systemic wealth, things like that. So we look at it as an insurance, and the best part about this insurance, um, if nothing ever happens, maybe you've been in it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is, and you start to feel a bit safer. You think maybe the storm is kind of calming down or whatever it is. It's very liquid. You can always sell it and go back into whatever maybe the money in the monetary system may be. And so that's the key part, where it's a store of wealth, a store of value. If things go bad, it holds the value of your money. If things are okay, you can easily move back into, um, let's just say, fiat or whatever else it may be. And this is one component where, it's important to understand about gold and silver. It's not just always the price. It's not, hello, what's the silver price today? Hello, what's the gold price today? It's not always, calling your dealer and asking them what's the price. There's more to it than just that. So again, I appreciate all of you being here. I'll take a look at a few comments. Jim Flynn, absolutely. Invest in yourself. That's the best investment. Invest in yourself. And sometimes investing in yourself means taking the time to read more than just the headline. And take time to read more than just the headline. Read into it and try to decipher what's really being said. And nothing wrong with that. I think we're at a point in time where we need to do that. Okay, so let's see. Peter Schultz, when does your vault open in the U.S.? I don't think we have plans to open up a vault in the U.S. because we're trying to help you understand that jurisdictionally wise, you may want to look at other options than holding it in your own jurisdiction. And Singapore is one of the more favorable jurisdictions to vault items like silver and gold. There's a lot of things there that can help you that you may find more advantageous to whatever your situation may be, as opposed to vaulting it in your own jurisdiction. It's a good question though. Um, yeah, okay. So I guess with that, I'll head out and let's see. Last one, Mr. Nguyen, Neil Howe, great book, and his forecast of the fourth turning, protect ourselves and families with gold and silver. Absolutely, it's a great book, and I think what he says it is true. We are in that fourth turning right now, and I think we all should try and Google fourth turning and see what it says and you or his book anyway, fourth turning. Very very interesting book, and it does apply to a lot of things that we're going through. So having said all that, I think it's yeah, getting late for some of you and for me as well. Early, well, in the morning still, so I gotta get going with a few things. But I do appreciate you all being here. Again, be a blessing, not a burden. We're all in this together, and let's see if we can rub off some kindness. Wherever we go, um, you know, and don't stay in that perpetual state of hate, watching too much media and things like that. So be a blessing, not a burden. And as I always say, saddle up for what's coming ahead and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.